What if I told you there's a country in the heart of Europe where medieval castles outnumber McDonald's restaurants, where cobblestone streets wind through towns that look like they were painted by a Renaissance artist having the best day of his life, and where you can drink some of the world's finest beer for less than $2 a glass? You'd probably think I was describing a fantasy novel, something imagined, exaggerated, or too perfect to actually exist in the real world. The kind of place you only see in paintings or storybooks. But this place is completely real, and it's far more accessible than most people realize. You can walk these streets, explore these towns, and experience it all firsthand. And if you haven't added it to your travel list yet, you are genuinely missing out. Welcome to Czechia, a country that blends history, culture, and landscape in a way that feels almost unreal, but everything you're about to see is completely authentic. And before we go any further, yes, that's what it's called now. The name Czechia is official, even though many people still use the old one. It's a small change, but an important one. The Czech Republic officially rebranded to Czechia back in 2016. While a lot of people around the world haven't fully caught on, the locals have embraced it. And today, it represents the country's modern identity. Now here's where things start to get interesting. Most travel videos about Czechia focus almost entirely on Prague. And while Prague absolutely deserves its reputation, it's only scratching the surface of what this country has to offer. Once you step outside the capital, you quickly realize that Czechia is filled with places that feel just as magical but far less crowded and often more authentic. These are the places where the real character of the country begins to show itself. And the deeper you go, the more you start to notice something unique about this country. It's not just about castles or pretty towns, it's about how everything fits together. Czechia feels less like a collection of destinations and more like one continuous experience. Every road leads somewhere interesting, and every turn seems to reveal something unexpected. Czechia feels less like a collection of destinations and more like one continuous experience. Every road leads somewhere interesting, and every turn seems to reveal something unexpected. That's when you start noticing the details, the architecture, the textures, the atmosphere. It's a place where history isn't just preserved, it's part of everyday life. And the further you go, the more you realize that Czechia isn't trying to impress you, it just naturally does. And this brings us to the first destination on our list, a place that perfectly captures everything we've been talking about, and honestly, it feels almost too perfect to be real. This is one of those places that looks exactly like you imagine a fairy tale town should look. But what makes it stand out isn't just how it looks, it's how well it's been preserved. Walking through Český Krumlov feels like stepping back several hundred years. Let's head north now to Bohemian Switzerland, one of Europe's most underrated national parks. The landscape here is so dramatic and unusual that it has been used as a film location multiple times. It feels completely different from anything we've seen so far. The centerpiece of this region is Pravčička Brana, the largest natural sandstone arch in Europe. It rises high above the forest and immediately stands out as one of the most recognizable natural landmarks in the country. All across the park, sandstone pillars and towers rise out of dense forest. The entire landscape feels almost unreal, like something pulled from a fantasy world, but it's completely natural. Hiking trails wind through these formations and along the Kamenis River, cutting through deep gorges. You can even explore parts of the river by boat, moving slowly through narrow rock passages. It's the kind of place that makes you realize nature can be just as dramatic as anything built by people. Moving east, the Moravian region of Czechia starts to reveal a completely different side of the country. Instead of dramatic castles and medieval streets, the landscape becomes softer and more relaxed. Rolling hills, vineyards, and small villages begin to define the atmosphere. Moravia is also where many traditional folk customs have survived across generations. There's a stronger connection to regional identity here, and you can feel it in the music, architecture, festivals, and everyday pace of life. The regional capital Brno is the second largest city in Czechia, but it feels completely different from Prague. It's younger, more modern, and noticeably more experimental in its atmosphere. Brno has an excellent cafe culture, a strong food scene, and architecture that ranges from medieval fortresses to modern masterpieces. It's the kind of city that quietly grows on you the longer you stay there. And that contrast is part of what makes Czechia so fascinating. In one country, you can move from Gothic cathedrals and Renaissance castles to some of the most influential modern architecture in Europe. The Moravian wine region centered around the town of Mikulov is where Czech wine culture comes alive in a way that surprises most visitors. A lot of people don't even realize Czechia produces wine at all, but this part of the country has been shaping vineyards and wine traditions for centuries. The local wine varieties here are genuinely excellent, and the region itself is built perfectly for slow travel. Cycling routes connect vineyard after vineyard through a landscape filled with quiet villages and open countryside. Mikulov itself is one of those towns that photographers instantly fall in love with. Its white castle rises above the historic center, while the Palava Hills create a dramatic backdrop behind the town. Almost everywhere you point your camera, the landscape feels perfectly composed. Vineyards, hills, castles, and old streets all blend together naturally, without feeling artificial or over-designed. It's one of the clearest examples of how Czechia constantly shifts between different identities while still feeling completely connected as a country. We should talk about Olomouc because it might be the most underappreciated major city in Central Europe. For centuries, it served as the capital of Moravia, and that history is still visible everywhere you look. The city carries itself with a quiet confidence that feels very different from Prague. The city's Holy Trinity column is one of the finest examples of Baroque sculpture anywhere in Europe. Rising above the main square, it dominates the space with layers of statues, gold detail, and elaborate craftsmanship. But Olomouc isn't just about monuments and architecture. The city also has a strong university culture that keeps the atmosphere young, energetic, and surprisingly modern. Walking through the historic center, you constantly come across fountains, churches, and hidden architectural details tucked into side streets and open squares. The city feels layered in a way that rewards people who explore slowly. And because it receives far fewer international tourists than Prague, the experience feels calmer, more local, and often much more personal. And speaking of hidden gems, let's talk about Telč. This small town in the Vysočina Highlands might be the most perfectly preserved Renaissance town square anywhere in the world. The moment you arrive, it almost stops feeling real. After a fire in the 16th century, much of the town was rebuilt at roughly the same time and under the same architectural influence. That consistency created a level of visual harmony that is incredibly rare to see. Arcaded facades in white, cream, and pastel shades stretch across the square in elegant rows. The curved rooflines and decorative details make the entire town feel almost too perfect to be genuine. Standing in the square on a quiet morning, with reflections forming beside the town and almost no crowds around you, it genuinely feels like stepping into another era. Places like Telč are part of what makes Czechia feel so endlessly rewarding to explore. Even the smaller towns carry an extraordinary amount of beauty, history, and character. Now let's talk about something that travel brochures rarely explain properly, but which is central to the Czech experience. The Czechs have a word called pohoda, a feeling of comfort, calmness, and things simply being right. And once you spend time here, you start noticing it everywhere. There's a slower rhythm to life here. Meals are not rushed, conversations matter, and people genuinely take time to enjoy where they are and who they're with. Coming from faster-paced cultures, it can feel surprisingly refreshing. That atmosphere changes the way you experience the country. Instead of rushing from attraction to attraction, Czechia encourages you to slow down, wander, and absorb the environment around you. And honestly, that slower pace might be one of the country's greatest strengths. It gives every town, every cafe, and every street corner a stronger sense of atmosphere and personality. It's one of those qualities that's difficult to explain in photos alone. You only really understand it once you spend time here yourself. The beer culture in Czechia is not just hype, it's a genuine part of everyday life. The country has one of the deepest brewing traditions in Europe, and it has shaped drinking culture around the world for centuries. The Czechs invented Pilsner lager back in 1842 in the city of Pilsen, and the influence of that single style completely changed global beer history. Even today, the original brewery continues operating and remains one of the country's most iconic destinations. But beyond Pilsner, the country is filled with regional breweries producing everything from dark lagers to unfiltered wheat beers and seasonal ales. Almost every region has its own brewing identity and local favorites. And surprisingly, the quality remains consistently high while prices stay incredibly affordable compared to much of Western Europe. In many places, a large draft beer costs less than bottled water at an airport. Beer here isn't treated like a luxury or a trend. It's simply part of the culture, woven naturally into daily life in a way that feels authentic and completely unforced. Food in Czechia deserves far more attention than it usually gets from international travel media. A lot of people assume Central European food is heavy and repetitive, but that completely misses how comforting, satisfying, and well-crafted it can be when done properly. One of the most famous dishes is svíčková, a slow-braised beef dish served with creamy sauce, bread dumplings, and cranberry compote. It's rich, comforting, and one of those meals that instantly changes people's opinions about the region's food. Then there's trdelník, the spiral pastry you'll see all over tourist areas. While some of the modern versions are designed mostly for Instagram, the classic cinnamon-coated version cooked over an open flame is genuinely delicious. And if you really want to understand Czech food culture, find a traditional hospoda and order whatever the daily special happens to be. That's usually where the best meals are hiding. Like so many things in Czechia, the food experience is less about spectacle and more about authenticity. It's simple, comforting, and deeply connected to the country's culture and everyday life. Now let's head west into the famous spa towns of Bohemia, because this region reveals yet another completely different side of Czechia. Elegant streets, thermal springs, grand hotels, and forested hills create an atmosphere that feels almost frozen in time. Karlovy, also known internationally as Carlsbad, became famous for its mineral-rich thermal springs and elegant 19th-century atmosphere. Writers, composers, and royalty all traveled here searching for relaxation and healing. Even today, the tradition of walking through the colonnades while drinking mineral water from specialized spa cups is still very much alive. It's one of those small details that makes the town feel deeply connected to its history. Nearby Mariánské Lázně feels even more peaceful. Grand spa buildings sit beside parks and forested hills, creating an atmosphere that feels almost impossibly romantic and quiet. Places like Karlovy Vary and Mariánské Lázně prove how many completely different experiences Czechia can fit into one relatively small country. Every region feels like it reveals another layer of identity. Czechia's contribution to classical music is extraordinary for a country of its size. Composers like Antonín Dvořák and Bedřich Smetana helped shape some of the most emotionally powerful orchestral music in Europe. Smetana's famous composition Vltava follows the course of the same river that winds through Prague and Český Krumlov. Hearing that music while standing beside the river itself creates a connection that feels incredibly powerful. The literary tradition here is just as deep. Franz Kafka was born in Prague, and once you wander through the narrow streets and hidden courtyards of the old town, you start understanding exactly where the atmosphere of his writing came from. Writers like Milan Kundera and Jaroslav Hašek also helped shape Czech literature into something internationally respected. For such a relatively small country, the cultural influence here is surprisingly massive. And that's part of what makes Czechia feel so culturally dense. Everywhere you go, history, music, literature, and architecture overlap constantly in ways that feel deeply connected. As beautiful as Czechia is, its history also carries a much darker side. The 20th century brought war, occupation, political repression, and enormous cultural loss that still shapes the country today. During World War II, Nazi occupation devastated Czech Jewish communities that had existed for centuries. In Prague's Jewish quarter, synagogues, memorials, and the old cemetery still preserve the memory of that history with incredible honesty and dignity. After the war, Czechoslovakia fell under Soviet influence and spent decades under communist rule. That period changed the country politically, culturally, and psychologically in ways that are still visible today. Then came the Velvet Revolution in 1989, when peaceful protests helped end communist rule in just a matter of weeks. It remains one of the most remarkable democratic transitions in modern European history. That mixture of beauty, resilience, and difficult history is part of what makes Czechia feel so emotionally layered. The country never hides its past, and that honesty gives even its most beautiful places a deeper sense of meaning. Practically speaking, Czechia is one of the easiest countries to explore in Europe. The transportation system is reliable, cities are well connected, and traveling between regions is surprisingly affordable. Prague's airport is extremely well connected internationally, and once you arrive, the country's train and bus network makes getting around very simple. Even smaller towns remain easy to reach without needing a car. Spring and autumn are probably the best seasons to visit. Spring brings blooming landscapes and comfortable temperatures, while autumn transforms forests and countryside into deep gold and orange colors. Winter in Prague creates an entirely different atmosphere. Snow-covered rooftops, Christmas markets, and the castle rising above the river make the city feel almost impossibly cinematic. No matter which season you choose, Czechia has a way of constantly exceeding expectations. The deeper you explore, the more rewarding the country becomes. Whatever season you choose, whatever mix of cities, castles, countryside, or culture you experience, Czechia will almost certainly exceed your expectations. It's a country that rewards curiosity and gets more interesting the deeper you explore. The traveler who comes only for Prague but leaves having discovered places like Český Krumlov, Bohemian Switzerland, Moravia, Olomouc, and Telč ends up experiencing something far deeper than ordinary tourism. Compared to some of Europe's more famous destinations, Czechia still feels surprisingly underappreciated for everything it offers. The beauty, history, culture, food, and atmosphere packed into this relatively small country are honestly extraordinary. If you've only seen Prague, it might be time to come back and go deeper, because the real magic of Czechia isn't just in its famous landmarks, it's in how every region reveals a completely different side of the country. That's the real fairy tale here, not just the castles or the cobblestone streets, but the fact that a place this beautiful, historic, and culturally rich actually exists in the real world. So what are you waiting for?